What is going on, everyone? I want to welcome Ben Dziwulski to the Mission Driven Made podcast. Thanks for being on the show.
I am so excited to be here.
And I forgot to ask you before when we were offline if I just pronounced your name correctly or not, because I actually have looked it up over the years and I've never heard your name pronounced.
Well, being that I don't even think we pronounce it correctly in Maryland, where I'm from, I'm sure you nailed it.
Okay, good.
In Poland, technically it's pronounced Dziwulski, I believe. Like the DZI makes a bit of a J noise, so Dziwulski. But in Maryland, we say Dziwulski. If you say Dziwulski, that's acceptable. I've had coaches just call me Dizzy. So Dizzy. Really anything with a ski on the end of it, that's good enough.
Okay, so I only butchered it a little bit then.
I think you nailed it. You did great. You probably pronounce it better than I do. So
perfect. Has anyone ever told you, when I saw you a second ago, I just thought of this, that you look like Derek Carr?
No, I don't think I've heard a Derek Carr reference. I've heard the guy from Prison Break, Wentworth Miller. I've been told I look like him, especially when I don't have my hat on. But no, Derek Carr, I'll take that. Even though he did beat the Ravens the other day, so I don't know if I like that.
Oh, that's right. You're a Ravens fan, then I'm a Raider fan. So that was a great day.
Yeah, I'm a Ravens fan, and y'all got lucky. We had so many injuries.
That was a crazy game. Like,
it was awesome. I mean, I freaking hate NFL overtime rules. I hate them so much.
Yeah.
But the fact that y'all got the ball and then could just like score a touchdown to win the game. It's like, give it everyone a chance at least.
Yeah. I don't quite understand it either. But I think a couple years ago, didn't they change it to where you can't initially win on a field goal?
At least they moved it in the right direction where it's like you gain 10 yards and win, kick a field goal. But it's still like the idea of like sudden death touchdown is like, all right, come on. Like, especially in today's modern football where it's like a much higher scoring game. It's like usually the person who gets the ball first wins. And that's a coin flip. That's not sports. So that was frustrating.
But, especially with the field goal. Like you said, you move up the field a couple yards and you win. That doesn't seem very fair.
At least I agree. They improved that a little bit, which is good. I just wish. I think each team should have a possession regardless, but whatever.
Oh, 100%. But I guess no one cares what we think, right?
No, here we are talking about NFL football and the rules.
Yeah.
But, here we go.
Well, thanks again for coming on the show. It's great to connect with you after a few years, and really pumped about hearing about how you started your virtual empire, WODprep, because it's actually one of the first companies or brands that kind of made me want to go out and create. So thanks for that, by the way. But before we get to that, I would love to hear about who Ben is, like your upbringing and kind of what led you in the direction that you are. And we'll get to all the WODprep stuff and your CrossFit experience a little bit later. But if you don't mind talking about your upbringing, that'd be amazing.
Man, what can I say about my upbringing? All I can say is like I'm a very lucky guy, very blessed. I do not have a story that's like, oh, I grew from nothing, started from the bottom, now we're here. It's like, no, I grew up with every opportunity to succeed and tried to make the most of that. And that's something that like I never want to lose sight of is how, I guess, blessed I am. I have two younger brothers. I have a mom and a dad. They're still together, which is a rare thing.
Yeah. Amazing.
We grew up in Maryland, not too far outside of Baltimore. And, my dad and mom worked their butt off. My mom mainly took care of us three boys, and my dad worked his butt off at an engineering company and was able to provide us with, not everything that we wanted. Because for me, it's like I wanted a motorcycle, I wanted a truck, I wanted a boat. He was always very frugal, so I got none of those things until I worked for them myself, and then I was able to, buy myself a little boat to go fishing. But overall, I mean, my parents were always so supportive in any dream that I had, and I think that's what maybe set me up mentally for success. Is like I never had anyone tell me that I couldn't do something, and I know that. Like now being older, I realized that not everyone had that opportunity. Yeah. Like my parents, when I told them I was going to be an NBA player, they're like, of course you are. Like, as long as you work really hard, you can. Yeah. And like, I got a lot closer than I mean, to be clear, I didn't get close in any way, shape, or form, but like I ended up playing on like really high level AAU basketball teams in middle school and high school, where I was playing with people who made it to the NBA. Like I was right there with them. I just happened to stay 5'9", and and white and unable to dunk. But like I did dunk one time in college though.
Oh, dang.
But it's I just didn't, I was put in a position where I could achieve anything because my parents never told me I couldn't, and I was always given every opportunity that I wanted to succeed. Now, that being said, there's a lot of people who flush those opportunities down the toilet. So I got really lucky to be raised in a good family with great brothers and great extended family, where it was just like we were just raised right, in a sense of like, you don't get it handed to you on a silver platter. But if you work really hard, you can achieve anything. And that's, I don't know, that's kind of like, that's where I started. And I, definitely never want to forget that, like, the reason that WODprep exists, or the reason that any of the quote unquote successes I've had in life exists, it's not solely because I work hard for them. It's also because I was presented a really great opportunity and had the privilege to be able to pursue those things, and wasn't shut down by my parents, wasn't, didn't have doors closed because of the color of my skin, didn't have, it's like I was born with every opportunity and tried to seize all of them. But I never had any doors closed on me, which was something to be very, very thankful for.
When you're in high school, you're mentioning like all these dreams and how your parents were supportive. So is basketball, was there anything else around that time that was you're passionate about, or you figured that you'd maybe do as a career one day?
Yeah, sure. So it started with basketball. So elementary, middle school, and even high school for a little bit, it was like basketball, and I played at a really high level. Like I said, had a few friends that went to the league, as we called it. And then that actually switched to fishing. Like I was a very high level competitive bass fisherman for quite some time. And that started in high school, where I started fishing some of these junior bass fishing tournaments. And then I was just like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go pro in fishing, and actually went to college, to North Carolina State, to be on their bass fishing team, rather than go play like smaller school basketball or football. Football was probably my best sport, but I was into basketball more, but football was probably the one that I was best at. But anyway, rather than going to a small college and playing football or basketball, I went to North Carolina State to be on their fishing team. Ended up winning the college national championship my senior year, I believe, or junior year, I forget. But I ended up winning like the biggest tournament of them all, and like was like dead set on rolling that into a career in professional fishing. Because at the time I'd already started my own fishing guide service a couple different ways. I was a bass fishing guide in college, and then during the summers I would run a shark fishing guide outfit out of Bethany Beach, Delaware, like kind of eastern shore of Maryland, Delaware. So I just always had this knack for like, whatever I want to do, I'm going to somehow find a way to, like, whatever I enjoy doing, I'm going to find a way to make a living out of it. So fishing was definitely the path I was on. And then it just so happened that like my sophomore year of college, I found CrossFit, and that being a competitive sport that I like kind of started enjoying, and like, oh, this is really fun. I'm like having a good time with this, and I'm kind of like decent at it. Like I can see myself getting good at this. That passion blossomed enough to like right when I graduated college, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna try to go pro in fishing. I think I'm gonna try to go pro in CrossFit, aka I'm gonna open my own gym. And that's what happened. And that's like a whole nother area of privilege, is like I was privileged enough to have a high school friend that also was interested in doing this. And then we were able to get this like huge angel investment from like a friend of a friend who lived in Maryland, and like, poof, here's $30,000 to start a CrossFit gym. That was, I mean, there was a lot of really, really good people that I knew that wanted nothing more than to see like me and my friend Josh be successful. And we were able to take that, started a gym, pay him back, and was off to the races in like being a professional CrossFitter, aka owning a gym, and then got to do a lot of competing and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I mean, my childhood in a nutshell was very much like,
Yeah.
I tended to be, I would work really, really hard to achieve the things that I thought I could achieve, but I never had anyone tell me that I couldn't do anything, which I think was a big thing. Like I remember going to the basketball camps, and like, when you go to a basketball camp away from your family when you're in middle school, most people, they're staying up till 2 a.m. and just hanging out with friends and just like, yeah, going to basketball camp, having a good time. I was the kid who would like go to bed early and wake up at 5 a.m. to go to the like private little training session that only 3 kids in the entire camp would show up to, just because it was like, they say that the hardest workers will go to this morning session and they're the ones that are going to be successful. That's me. I'm going to do that. So I would work my ass off to try to get what I wanted. But again, there was never any friction other than my own, how I limited myself. Like if I was lazy, then that would limit myself. But otherwise it was like all the doors were open for me.
Is it CrossFit in the beginning? Just at least for me, it was like immediately addictive and just wanted to do. Did you feel that way a little bit too?
I did, because it was, I in the very beginning of CrossFit, I was told by one of my high school teachers, he was like, you got to try this thing. It's called CrossFit. They do these crazy kippering pull-ups. And I'm like, okay, Mr. Ashcraft, like, sure. Mr. Ashcraft he was another like super supportive teacher that I had. But anyway, he told me about this. When I came home to like, a lot of, what was it? Not seniors in high school, but a lot of freshmen in college would come back to our school when we're let out after our first year of college, and then like haze the seniors. Basically like that was like a lot of the kids would come back and just like drop into our favorite teachers' classes and like, just like haze them. It was just like a kind of an unwritten thing where like you'd come back and just hang out with your favorite teachers or like some of your friends and like kind of go to a couple of their classes. And as long as you weren't too disruptive, they just kind of let it happen. So I remember going back after my first year at North Carolina State, and then Mr. Ashcraft we were just catching up, talking about fishing, talking about, what I was doing. And then he just told me about his workout routine, and it was CrossFit. You just type in CrossFit.com and then do whatever it tells you to do that day. And he told me about the official CrossFit Warm-Up, which was 3 rounds of like, I think it's 3 rounds of Cindy, basically 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 air squats. He's like, the warm-ups are like other people's workouts. So he was just selling it really hard. And I think that night or maybe the next day, woke up, I was at my parents' house and just like I went to CrossFit.com, followed what it said. And it was Barbara. And I puked everywhere. I remember doing Barbara and I threw up. And I was like, man, that was way harder than I expected. And then of course I saw the comments section where you can actually see the results people are logging. And back then it would be like M/21/59/ and that was like male, 21 years old, 5'9" whatever information they would share. And then like, here was what my score was for that day. And I remember seeing these punks that just destroyed me. Like they crushed the score that I got in the workout. And I was like, wait a minute.
Crush the ego.
Yeah, they just crushed me. I was like, I'm fit. I need to get better at this. So then I did it again the next day, threw up again. And then I eventually realized that I need to stop drinking a giant half-gallon fruit smoothie 2 minutes before starting these CrossFit workouts, because CrossFit workouts are way more intense and my body's not prepared for this. So I stopped throwing up. I stopped drinking my signature giant berry fruit smoothie. And then I kept doing it that summer. And then when I went back to school the next semester, actually like saw a couple people in NC State's gym. I'd be like, are you doing CrossFit? You like see someone do you see someone that had like Innovates on, cause that was the shoe back in the day. And it's what I'm wearing right now, actually. You'd see someone that has the Innovate shoes on, or you'd see someone who's doing kipping pull-ups and you kind of be like, hey, you doing CrossFit too? It was like this like underground cult thing. Yeah. So I found a couple guys and girls there that were doing CrossFit, and then it just kind of took off from there.
You would just do it in the gym at the
we do it at NC State's gym, and I kind of stepped up and like said, all right, I'll pick the workouts, because I was geeking out hardcore about it. Anything that I do, typically I do completely full send. like that's something my parents have always told me, where it's like,
Yep.
like when I wanted to race little pocket bikes, like those little mini motorcycles, and those things were hot, it wasn't that I just wanted to get one and have fun with it. It was like, no, I'm going to go compete on the international circuit for racing mini motorcycles. You know, like immediately jump to like, I
Yep.
want to do everything. Like
Yep.
even like hunting. Like I recently got into hunting here in Colorado. Never have been into hunting ever. But I realized the power of like wanting to, if I'm going to eat meat, I'd much rather be actually connected with that meat and understand where it
Right.
came from than like buy it off a shelf. So elk hunting is a major thing here in Colorado. So what do I do the first year? Full send, buy all the gear. I lived in the woods for multiple weeks and I'm going back out again tomorrow. Like, it's just like,
Yep.
I'm like all in
Yep.
fully. So when it came to CrossFit, I was all in
Yep.
fully. I watched all the videos. I got obsessed with all the form, got obsessed with the technique. I started wanting to coach all the people who were doing it with us. And it just kind of took off from there, where I definitely went full send.
I don't understand how not to be that way. The full
Yeah.
sentiment. My mom and stepdad growing up would always tell me how I was like that. My wife reminds me of that all the time. It's just like you said, it's like 0 to 100. Like when I first saw your brand, I was like, I want to do that. You know,
Yeah.
like I want to do that by tomorrow or something. Like I
Yeah.
always had that mentality too. And I remember since I was little too, the same exact thing that you were saying. That's how I always felt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everything. I mean, I'm trying to think what other hobbies. Paintball. That was a big one where it's like, yep,
Yeah.
I'm going to go pro in paintball. You know, it was
Yeah.
just like everything, any hobby I pick up. It's not like, oh yeah, I'll dabble in it. It's like, nope,
Yep.
I go complete obsession with it. And
Yep.
it's just the way that I'm wired. And I think
Yep.
that's helped, you know, grow my brand, grow businesses that I've started, things like that, because I just have this obsessive nature. Thank God I'm not a drug addict, because I would be I'd be all into that.
Yep.
So no drugs.
Yeah. Has it ever gotten you in trouble having the full send all in personality?
I'm trying to think of a time where maybe it got me in trouble per se. I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily got me in trouble, but like most people's versions of college are much different than my version of college, because I was on the fishing team and I wanted to win the national championship and I wanted to be the best college fisherman there was. It was like, that's what I did. So like while a lot of my roommates and friends, like they would go and actually watch sporting events together and go to NC State basketball and football games and go to parties and socialize with other human beings. I was like, nope, I'm gonna go fishing. Right. Like, and that was it. So it was CrossFit. It was like training for CrossFit and trying to win in fishing. It was like winning in CrossFit, winning in fishing. My whole life was dedicated to that. So didn't drink, didn't party, didn't really even socialize that much in college. So do I regret it? Maybe part of me maybe regrets not living a more traditional college life, but at the same time, I wouldn't trade the obsessiveness that I have with things for anything, because that's enabled me to build a business where I was obsessed enough the first 5-6 years to like build the team, grow it to where it's bigger than a couple other similar companies in the same industry. And now I can go to socialize and do whatever I want and like live this life that, you know, a less obsessed version of me wouldn't have been able to get.
Yeah. 100%.
Hopefully that makes sense.
Oh, it resonates with me completely.
There's an ebb and there's a yin and a yang to everything. So while my obsessive nature probably causes me to lose out on a lot of things, and I probably didn't relax as much, and I probably didn't have as much fun as some other people in college or other aspects of my life. But on that same side, or the opposite side of that same coin, is like that all-in nature, that complete all-in obsessiveness is what allows me to excel in different aspects of my life.
It's so cool too, because it like gets you to value stuff that you just care about. There's just a few things versus tons of things you don't really care about, which, like you're talking about your college life that you might have missed out on a little bit. I mean, it's cool now because of your personality, you're successful now and got to, you know, I'm sure you didn't value 100 other things. You know, it was fishing, it was CrossFit, it was the few things you named. So I feel like there's a huge advantage in that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite books in the world is Essentialism by Greg McKeown. And he talks about that exact thing. He's like, when you identify the few things, when you can discern
Yeah.
I'm trying to come up with the exact quote so I don't butcher it, but basically it's like an essentialist is able to discern the vital few from the trivial many. That's the right word. So it's like, what are the vital few things that I'm interested in and care about? And then what are the just trivialities that I just could care less about? And that's always been the way that I've kind of lived. Granted, the things that are very important to me are very trivial to some other people, but like,
Yeah.
it's better than caring about everything. Like, I don't watch the news hardly, never really have. And like, I know people live different lives, but it always is really interesting to me. There's so many people who like know everything about what's going on in the world. And they know all the shows and they know all the news and they know this and they know that. And I'm just like, yeah, but what are you doing? Right.
Yeah.
Like, you know, a lot of stuff, but like, what are you, go out and live. Don't just absorb the information. Go create the story. Don't listen to the story. So.
Oh, I love that. That book was called Essentialism, and who wrote it?
Yeah, it's Essentialism. I'm looking at my bookshelf, but it's Essentialism by Greg McKeown, McKeown.
Cool. I just wrote that down. It sounded really good.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so after you open your gym, that was the first gym you opened, obviously. Tell us about that experience, about being a new business owner in the CrossFit world, and like if there's any challenges that you faced in the beginning.
Oh yeah, I mean, there were plenty of challenges. I will say, like, the reason the gym was successful, and when I say successful, it's not like we were making tons of money, but we were able to like cover our monthly nut the first month. Like, we opened, we pre-sold some packages, and like we could cover our rent. Boom, done. You know, like, and we didn't have much after that, but we were able to slowly but surely build the business that was able to keep us fed. I think at the time, both of us were living with our parents, so there wasn't much rent expense. But it was just like, we hustled, man, and we grinded really hard. And again, that's another area of privilege. Like, we both were outside of college, but had parents that let us move back in because they saw we weren't deadbeats. We're like, no, we're starting businesses, so we're going to move back in with our parents. And like that, not everyone has that opportunity, but the challenges of starting the gym would have been much greater if I didn't have an amazing mentor, Christmas Abbott, who owned CrossFit Invoke. If you know her, so she owned the gym that I coached at for multiple years in Raleigh, North Carolina, while I was in school. So eventually, like, I didn't stop going, but like, I eventually transferred from like teaching all these random people at NC Stage Gym and hanging out with them and like just trying to do our best, where like I actually started going to a CrossFit gym. And then Christmas saw some potential in me and was just like, hey, like, I'll give you free membership. I want you to become one of our coaches. I think you might be good at it. And I also want you to compete on our team. And I did all of those things, I was like one of the most steady coaches by the time I graduated, and then just like learned a lot from her. And I told her, I was like, yeah, one day I want to open a CrossFit gym. And she kind of like, took me under her wing and showed me some stuff about running a gym. And I learned from her, and then her co-owner, Brandon Garner, who is a business savant. I mean, he knows how to run a gym. So I learned a lot from them. And then I was able to like parlay being kind of on the inside of running CrossFit Invoke and seeing how it was done, and apply that to opening up this CrossFit gym, which was Blue Crab CrossFit in Elkridge, Maryland, which still stands to this day. Now there's actually 2 different locations. Awesome. The locations are no longer affiliated with each other. That's a whole nother can of worms that I'm not involved with at all, because I sold my shares of Blue Crab. But the bottom line is like, the gym wouldn't have existed or probably wouldn't have done very well if I didn't see how other people ran it. And then also at the time of growing, like starting the gym, it's like, how do you get your first few members? Well, you spam all the people you know about it and tell them to come, and then you just absolutely pour your heart and soul into every class that you coach and hope that people stick around. And we, like, one of our big things was actually that was when Groupon and Living Social were like a lot more popular. So we had a Living Social deal that we ran. And like, some of my best friends to this day still to this day, came from that Living Social deal. Like they bought this CrossFit Living Social deal, showed up, and then became full-blown members. And like, again, I can name at least 10 people I am still friends with this to this day that purchased that Living Social deal and came to Josh and I's gym. And a lot of them are still members back in Maryland. And then some of them are even like, one of them moved down the street from my house because we're best friends with them. So it's just like, it's crazy how many things came from that one like Living Social deal. But yeah, I think that the main thing that to help us grow, I mean, there were the challenges of like, we don't have coaches. So guess what? Like there were some days where I coached the 6 a.m. class all the way through the 6:30 p.m. class. And I was there the whole time. There's a lot of days like that. Some days I slept at the gym, but the bottom line was like, if I invested all of my energy and love and focus, again, that idea of like going all in, if I invested all in into every single class and trying everything I could do to come up with ideas to grow the business and market the business, then the success took care of itself.
Yeah, that was actually to be a question I was going to ask you about how many hours you had to put in the beginning. Because the gym owner that I know, the one I used to work for back in San Diego, I mean, there was times he was there from 5 a.m. till 8 p.m. or so. Like it was definitely a grind. I feel like I've seen that with definitely a lot of CrossFit gyms, especially if there's not a ton of coaches that work there or any full-time ones.
Yeah. I mean, especially if you're trying to bootstrap and you don't have like a huge financial investment to then spend money on all the gear and the equipment and coaches. It's like, nah, I mean, what we did was we took that, I think it was 30K or 33K. We bought 20, probably like 15, 20K worth of equipment. And then there was like 10 left over, security deposit plus our first month's rent. And it was like, and then we had like a little bit left over in the bank to like pay for a workout tracking tool or something like that. So we had nothing. And it was just like, all right, now we need members. Like, let's go make some money. And then that was it.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like there's probably a lot of dumb things that we did, but the main thing that we did correctly was hustle our faces off and be willing to do the work. Like we didn't start with like, oh yeah, we're only going to offer 2 classes because there's only 2 of us and we don't want to spend that much time at the gym. It's like, no, we freaking live there, man. Like
that's
like,
awesome.
And we bootstrapped it in the sense of like, we couldn't afford mats to build out the entire gym. So what do? We put mats in half the gym, right? And like we couldn't afford 5 rowers. So what did? We bought 1 rower and we wrote our workouts where people could rotate. It's just like, we just did what we could. It didn't seem to us like we were making this huge sacrifice. It just seemed like we were doing what needed to be done.
How long did you own and run the gym for?
I guess for me, technically, it was only like a year and a half because then I got engaged and moved from Maryland to Florida because my fiance at the time was in the military. So that was what kind of like, that's what eventually inspired me to create WODprep was, I ran the gym. It was great. A lot of my relatives went. We had, a lot of my best friends at the time were going, and it just like, it was this amazing group, this amazing community that still exists to this day. My aunts still go there. People still call them Aunt Jane and Aunt Carol, which I just find amazing. But they, like once I realized that I had to move, that's when it was like, all right, I'm either going to try to run the business from afar, which didn't work out that well. Or I guess I'll like move on, maybe sell my half of the business and find a way to, do something else that I can't be employed by anyone else. Like that never really crossed my mind. I was like, I'll go get a real job. It's like, all right, what's my next thing that I'm going to, scrape out of thin air and figure out how to do it. And then that was WODprep. I just started making videos. I realized that people always would tell me like, I really like the way that you coach this thing, or I love the way that you explained this thing. And I was like, maybe people will be interested if I just put that on the internet in video form. And then that kind of just like snowballed from there. And eventually WODprep was born.
Oh, WODprep it's the go-to if you're learning CrossFit. Like everyone knows that.
Well, I appreciate that. I wish more people knew about that.
So tell us about starting WODprep, what it looked like in the beginning and how it kind of took off.
So in the very beginning, I had a big imposter syndrome where like, I was like, no one, like, I was competitive, but I wasn't a games athlete. I wasn't Ben Smith, Rich Froning, like I wasn't Jason Khalipa, wasn't Chris Spieler. So like who really was going to pay attention to what I have to say? So when I first started WODprep, the idea was I am going to release videos to help people strategize for the open, but I'm going to interview really, really good CrossFitters. And they're going to tell us what they would do. And that's going to be WODprep in some way, shape, or form. Like it didn't cross my mind that I would be the coach of WODprep. I'd be like, oh, I'm setting up this ecosystem where other really smart people can come and give coaching advice. Well, the very, very first video that I was supposed to shoot was on the 14.1. It was on, CrossFit Open 2014 first workout. Well, the guy that was supposed to come bailed. He's like, oh, can't do the video tonight. He's just like bailed. And I was just like, oh no, what do I do? I guess I'll just shoot my own video because I have no backup plan. So I shot my own video, released it, and the response was amazing. People were like, I love the way you explained this. This is great. Like, it was the worst video of all time. There's probably somewhere exists on the internet. I know it's on Facebook somewhere because I just released it on Facebook. I didn't have any other platforms. Released it on Facebook. The response was great. Next week, same freaking thing happens. Where like I tried to get a guest coach to come in that ran a pretty big program at the time, and he bailed on me. I was like, shoot, I guess I'll make another one. So I made it again. And then by the time the third week came around, I was like, screw it, I'll just do these all on my own. And all that time I'm doing that, I'm also like making the smart move of like building an email list. That was like the best idea I ever made, was like just have some reason for people to sign up for my email list, just because I had some business coach tell me to do that. Like, whatever you do, grow your email list for your gym. And now that I was running this online thing, maybe who knew what it was? It just was called WODprep because it was the only domain name I thought of that was available. Just build your email list. Yeah. And that's what I did. And then like it just snowballed from there. I did all the open videos. Tons of people were really interested. People were actually signing up for my email list, even though my website like only worked half the time. And then I moved from Florida to San Diego, and was kind of even during that time like, well, okay, what am I actually going to do? And then just like I couldn't think of anything else, and I was like, screw it, I guess I'll just like keep trying this WODprep thing and see what happens. And then my email list kept growing. My videos people kept liking them, and it just kind of like slowly but surely just incrementally got a little bit bigger. And then I ended up putting together my first course because my then wife at the time was like, you need to get a real job or stop writing things on a whiteboard to brainstorm at the house and like go do something. She like didn't understand like what is this thing that you say you're doing on the internet? Like, what are you actually doing? What I was doing was staying up really, really late, listening to business podcasts, reading business books, and just coming up with a lot of ideas. Was I implementing any of them? Maybe. So then finally she was like, I think you need to go get a real job, because I wasn't, other than like the little tiny scraps that were coming in from the gym buyout. It was like, all right, Ben, like you should probably like go do something with your life. Meanwhile, I have like this master plan churning in my head for this massive business I'm going to grow. And then I was just like, well, I guess to prove to her that I can actually make money, I'll do what I'm terrified to do. And that's try to sell something to my email list. So I like shot a whole course, designed it all myself, even designed the logo myself, which was atrocious, called Muscle Up Madness. Created this course, filmed all the videos, edited the videos, had spelling mistakes in all of the videos pretty much. Eventually sold this course to my email list. And I remember sending out the email to say like, hey, Muscle Up Madness is my first product. It's available for sale, and it's going to help you learn how to do ring muscle ups. And I remember like I stayed up till like 6 a.m. to like get it all finalized. I sent this email to my email list, went to bed at like 6 a.m. My wife is like getting up and then going to work, and I'm like still awake playing on the computer. And she's just like, oh my God, what are you doing? Well, and I went to bed, only was able to sleep for a couple hours, and then got back up at like around noon, checked my email, no sales, zero, zilch, nada. And I was like, well, screw it. Guess I'm like, at that point, like I was like, well, at least I took a shot. There's, obviously this isn't going to work. I'm not actually going to make money on the internet. Like, what was I thinking? I guess I'll figure out what to do. I'll go get a real job or something. Maybe I'll go coach at the local gym. Like that'll be, I'll do that. And then like went back to bed, was all depressed, and then like woke up a few hours later and had like 3 sales come in. And I was like, oh my God, it happened. I think I
Yeah.
was selling the course for $20 or $27 at the time. So I made like $60 or something like that. And then I was off to the races. I was like, yep, I did it. I can do it. I can do this. And then I think the first week I sold like $150 worth of courses, and then just kind of, again, like this slow, steady building where just like I kept growing my email list. I'd sell a little bit more, and it just kind of like slowly but surely started snowballing. And I still remember like getting my first like testimonial. Like someone was like, hey, Ben, your course worked for me. And I was like, what? It did. And then he sent me a video of him getting his first muscle up. And I was just like, oh my God, it worked. And you followed it even with all the spelling mistakes. Like, oh my God. And then then I was all in.
So at that point, it was Facebook, the website you said that worked half the time, and then you had your one course, right?
Yep.
Awesome. What came after that for WODprep? How did you keep growing it?
Then it was more of like a systematic, like I knew that, well, okay, the next thing that happened was I moved to Japan. So like, again, military lifestyle, we're moving all the time. So I moved from San Diego to Japan. And then that was kind of it was a crazy new world, but also it's like, I didn't have any friends out there. I didn't know anyone. It was a foreign country. So honestly, it made me, at least in the beginning, live like a hermit, except for the times that, my wife was dragging me out to go explore with her. I was like, just all in on building the business. And that was able, like, I just, again, did this thing where it was like, I was always releasing new content, the new pieces of content and videos that I did start releasing on YouTube. I was like, people keep telling me I should put stuff on YouTube. I guess I should do it. So eventually started putting stuff on YouTube. That was everything was always released to try to build my email list. And then as the email list growed, I would just like, hey, what do you guys want next? And then the next course I launched was a double under course, sold that, made a little bit of money doing that. And then the next one I think was bar muscle ups, sold that, made some money doing that. And then it just kind of like, I just kept releasing whatever the thing was that everybody wanted and would make a program for it. And then it just, again, just slowly but surely kept growing from there. And then we're like, I guess where I really knew it was like, oh shoot, this is a real thing. And I kind of have a knack for it. And I think this is going to be my thing. Was I released a video kind of early on. It was, I think, like 2 weeks into living at Japan. Like I had just gotten there, it felt like. Yeah, I literally think it was like only a couple weeks after moving there. I released this one video about like how to unload the barbell. That's all it was. It's like this stupid video that I made and edited, and it was a horrible video. It was ugly. I almost didn't release it. I released it right before going to bed, because that's when the US is getting up. I released it right before going to bed, and then woke up the next morning. It had 630,000 views. And I was like, oh my God, I had a video go viral, and like Louis Simmons shared it, like
What?
multiple, yeah, like big powerlifting gyms were sharing it, like how to unload the barbell. Cause it was kind of like a funny video too. I was like, share this video, save the barbells. Like I tried to make it sound like it was like like one of those puppy commercials, like the Humane Society, but it was the Humane Society for the barbell. And once that video went viral, like my Facebook likes skyrocketed. Like people started recognizing, oh, WODprep. Like, oh yeah, I've seen a couple of your videos. And then it just like, then the snowball really started moving, and I hired a business mentor, and it was like off to the races of like, Billy, tell me what I should do to take this business and grow it. And we just kind of worked together. And I think like one of the main things for like growing a business is like always find someone that's been there and done that, and then hire them to help you do it. Mainly from like just an idea, or keeping me focused. Like I'd always have like 1,000 different ideas. I'm very much an idea person. And he would always be like, Ben, what is the original goal that you told me you wanted me to help you with? I'm like, oh, yeah, growing my email list to 20,000 people. Okay. And he would just always keep me focused on what my goal was. And I think hiring a mentor that's like one of the most important aspects of growing a business, is learning from someone who's been there and done that, so they can keep you focused on the right track.
And so by that point, the point where a video goes viral and then you eventually had your mentor, how long had WODprep been a thing for?
That was, so I started, WODprep had been a thing for a full year at that point, because I started it open of 2014. And then we moved to Japan in January of 2015. I want to say, actually, no, is that right? I think we moved to Japan. Yeah, no, I think that's right. Is that right? I think it's right. Or maybe we moved to Japan in 2016. I can't remember. I'm not good with dates and timeframes and stuff like that. But I think so. It started in 2014. Yep. We qualified for regionals. I ended up not being able to compete because I moved. I want to say it was 2015. So 1 year, it had been in existence for roughly 1 year since releasing my very first video to when the video went viral.
So just working your butt off for hours and hours, and then finally one day just kind of happened for you.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what it's always like, oh, it was an overnight success, like, I mean, that's what every business seems to be, but it was very much like there was a lot of $0 an hour work, which not everyone can do that. Not everyone has a spouse that can support them, right? Not everyone has a buyout from a previous business they ran. So like, again, another reason, like, got really fortunate there, but I wasn't just farting around. I was spending 14 hours a day working on my business and editing videos that were really ugly and sending them to people. Like, if you take enough swings, eventually you're going to hit a home run. And that's what it was. I was just like, kept taking swings. And then eventually one of these videos popped off and went viral. And then that I think really just gave me the motivation to keep taking swings. And then things kept growing and growing and growing.
And looking back, like, from your perception now, seeing the type of work you put out in the beginning versus now, how do you feel about that? Like, is your work back then compared to now just in a whole different league?
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't do a good job of like reflecting on that, but like 5 years ago or 6 years ago, if myself back then could see what WODprep is now in terms of like video quality and the comprehensiveness of our products and courses and even like social media profiles, like I'd probably be in tears back then. I'd be like, oh my God, it worked. Like, and wow, these videos are unreal. Like, how did you do that? But because it's such a slow, steady burn, I don't really reflect on that as much as I probably should. But yeah, I mean, it's in a completely different league. And that's just because I just slowly but surely keep leveling up. Like when we moved back from Japan, I realized, I was like, you know what? I want to take it a step further and I'm going to get my own studio. Like, I don't want to, I want to have my own studio. I think we can afford it. And we being WODprep, and let's do it. And then here I am in my own studio, in my own office. And it's just like whatever, what's the next step? I don't think you necessarily have to figure out the entire plan. A lot of people, I think, get hamstrung by like, I have this master vision of what the next 10 years are going to look like. But honestly, the best way to navigate for me has been like, all right, what's the next step? Like, what are we doing next? What's the next step? For me, the next step is a course on recovery, and then a barbell course. And then we have another, and it's just like, I don't necessarily know what WODprep is going to look like in 5 years, but I know it'll probably be bigger and better than what it is now. And as long as we keep being smart about what the next step is, then I think we'll be in good shape.
And you made such a good point. Like, in the beginning, like, even if the work isn't as good as it is now, just to go and do it and just to take action, even if it's not perfect. And that's something that we talk about at Mission Driven Made, is taking action, even if it's not going to be perfect in the beginning, but be relentless with that action and just keep going. Because look what happened to you. Now you have a virtual empire because of the effort you put in and not stopping.
Yeah. Imperfect action always beats a perfect plan that's not executed. Right.
Love that.
I mean, there's actually Tim Ferriss posted something the other day on his Instagram where it was like this successes and failures matrix, where it was just like someone who basically has way more failures also has way more successes than the person who only has a couple failures, and it's just like, it just makes so much sense.
I love that. You said Tim Ferriss, right?
Yep.
I have his 4-Hour Workweek book on my desk over here.
It's a great book. It's one of the originals. It's a little longer than it needs to be. Tim likes to write very, very, very long books, but that is like OG. That's like the Bible of digital entrepreneurship. You just talked about like the importance of outsourcing, the importance of delegating responsibility to employees or contractors, and the importance of like smoke tests and like running tests to see if your idea is going to work. Like, it's a great book. Great book.
Yeah, I was talking about this book with my sister-in-law a couple months ago, and I was telling her I think Tim Ferriss is a genius, but his book made me feel so scatterbrained. Like there's so much information.
And that's the way my brain works too. Like I'm all over the place. Like some things I can get really focused in, but I mean I have a million ideas a minute, man. So reading that, and he's very scatterbrained, but he's still able to build an amazing business on the back end of it, both through his podcasting and through his books. So there's room in the entrepreneurship space for the eccentric random idea every 10 seconds people like myself and Tim Ferriss, or the very, very, very focused and diligent and organized and structured people, which are the opposite of the spectrum.
My favorite part about the guy is how he said, like, he got rejected, I think it was 27 times until someone took his book. So I have mad respect for him, like specifically because of that. He just kept swinging, which I love. And I feel like more people could learn from.
Absolutely. I mean, when you take, again, like that idea of like the only way to hit a home run is to swing the bat. Well, if you only swing the bat 1 or 2 times, chance of you hitting a homer are very small. So don't be afraid of failures. And I mean, it's not like I'm saying like go out and just fail at everything on purpose. It's like, no, you do everything trying to win, but like, if it doesn't work, just do it again in a different way, learn from it.
Love it. And Ben, so just about everyone I know, especially when I was still in the CrossFit world, goes to you or WODprep to get advice and to learn. Do you have a person that you still go to as far as that stuff? Like it could be a mentor or like people you're trying to learn or get coached from, or did that stop a long time ago?
You talking about from a fitness perspective or business or both?
So if you were like, oh, I want to teach, handstand walks or something like that, but I'm not really sure the way to do it. Like, do you have a person that you look to still to help you with creation like that?
I don't. So I guess the answer is kind of. So like just because of 10 years of coaching experience, and now I think it's more than that because time has passed since I calculated that, but I have over 10 years of coaching, and I've taught all of it and seen success in my athletes. But a lot of it started teaching people in person how to do X, Y, and Z, or learning myself how to do X, Y, and Z. So for every single element of CrossFit, I know how to teach it, and I can teach to other people, right? So like anymore, I'm not really going to other people like, how do you teach toes to bar, or how do you teach handstand walks? Like, no, I have a system that works, and like, every once in a while I'll see a tip. I'm like, oh, that's a really good tip. Like, I'm going to use that in our stuff. But I'm not. I admittedly am not educating myself as much within the space of fitness and CrossFit as much as I used to. But that's also why I have a team of coaches that are better than me at coaching anyway. So like, there's that. Now, that being said, when it comes to recovery, when it comes to Olympic weightlifting within CrossFit, I am bringing in subject matter experts to help us create courses. When it comes to nutrition, right? Like I brought in Andy Morgan from rippedbody.com, and we created No Nonsense Nutrition, which is a course in the WODprep ecosystem. So like I am bringing in subject matter experts on these subjects to help teach my audience. I'm not going to them to learn. Like I'm not going to Andy learning about nutrition and then passing myself off as the expert anymore. Now it's more of like, oh, if I have a course, like the course that we shot this week is called Recovery RX. It's about how to maximize your recovery so that you're actually realizing the gains from the gym, because you actually get less fit every time you go to the gym. The only time you get more fit is when you recover from that session. Right. So we brought in this doctor. Her name's Dr. Justine Ward. She runs a sleep company, basically where she optimizes people's sleep and recovery. So we brought her in, and like I was able to build the entire course off of not me knowing the information, but her knowing the information, along with my head coach, CJ DePalma. And then like we created a course together. So it's like, it's more of just like, I'm relying on people. If I want to release something that I think will be good for WODprep and our customers, I'll go find someone who really knows how to teach it and just bring them in.
I did have to, before I ask you one of my last questions here, I did have to give you a shout out saying how great you guys are about taking very complex things and digesting it to very simple things for people to learn. That's one of the things I learned from you and your team when I was a new coach back in the day, was you just rambling on about everything you know about an Olympic lift and going through the three parts of, the pull and the external rotation. Like people you're teaching don't care about that. And I kind of did that in the beginning too. Like you want to sound smart and like, you know what you're doing. But then I saw you and your team, and it's like, you're making it so simple for anyone that comes in the gym. So I just had to give you a quick shout out for that. And that was awesome. So,
well, dude, I appreciate that, because I think one of the original mottos of WODprep is simple coaching is better coaching. Because like, if you can't explain something simply, then you are not a good coach, or you even don't understand it well. Or maybe you do, but you just don't understand how to teach other people. There was some argument the other day. I don't get into Instagram arguments, but someone got in an argument on my page about toes to bar. Like my tip for a lot of people is like, toes to bar. 2 tips that really help people. Look at the bar when you're trying to touch your toes to it. Don't look down. Look at the bar. Even if it means tilting your head back, just look at the bar. Tip 1. Tip 2, if you need to tuck your knees and then flick your feet up to touch the bar, that works great for a lot of people. You don't need to keep your legs straight. I think it's super overrated to keep your legs fully extended. In fact, I think it makes the movement harder. Try it for yourself, see how it goes. I had some freaking like CrossFit level 12 gymnastics certified, yada, 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 come in and try to explain how those tips reduce the power output based on such and such study, and the proprioception of yada, yada, like just like this essay. And all I did was like, all I wanted, you can't post a picture in Instagram comment, but I read this guy's shit and I was just like, oh my gosh, like, all right, I like double tap, like, great explanation. Like, I'm sure you know a lot about the body and its biomechanics. However, here's a picture of every single CrossFit Games athlete at the games today looking at the bar and bending their knees. Like,
simple.
Right? It's just like, it doesn't need to be complicated. I don't like it when people get on their high horse of how much they know. Yeah. And then also try to let everyone know how much they know.
Yeah.
I always teach from a standpoint of like how did I learn? And I'm going to share with you how I learned. I'm not going to say this is the only way to do it, but try for yourself and let me know how it goes. Which is exactly why, like, a lot of these tips that I give, I'm not like, this is the only way to do it. Yeah. And when people come in with like, this is the wrong way to do it, this is the only way, this is the best form, it's like, it's very frustrating to see. So anyway.
Do you get trolled a lot?
I don't know. I don't look at most of the stuff. Like,
that's probably smart.
So I'm sure I do. Like, one of my favorite things used to be to troll people back when they trolled my kipping pull-up videos. Like, one of my most important videos, or not most important, one of my most popular videos is a butterfly pull-up video on YouTube. And I, every once in a while, go in there and just like troll all of the people trolling me. The best way to do that is to just agree with them completely. Like, they'll be like, butterfly pull-ups are the dumbest thing ever. Not a single rep was performed, or something like that. And I'll come in like, as WODprep, as a guy who released video, like, yeah, what the heck does this guy think he is? Like, does he think he's Spider-Man? Like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And it's so great because you just take all their power away. But anyway.
Do they respond back to that?
Sometimes. And sometimes people are like, wow, that was amazing. Like, kudos, mad respect.
Nice. And so I have one last question for you that I always try to ask my guests at the end of the show. So we talk about being mission driven, which means taking imperfect but relentless action. We talk about that on every show. So why did you choose to live such a mission driven life, which you obviously have?
Let's see. Hmm. You know, it's very difficult for me to define like a point where I was like, I am choosing to live a life like this. For whatever reason, it seems like since I was younger, like talking like grade school, kindergarten, even, I always believed that I could do anything. So I don't know if my brain is wired that way, or if it's my parents and the way they raised me, but like this, it just like, I know this sounds super cliche and like annoying even, but it's like I've always lived like that. Like, so I can't necessarily say that I chose that route. Um, but there is one book, like the first self-development book that I ever read is called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And in that book, he just like makes a really good argument with graphs and lots of simple arguments about like how each and every decision that you make is either pulling you towards your goal or towards a positive life, or that decision is pulling you the wrong way. There's very few times where it's medium, right? There's always like, it's either pulling you towards where you want to be or away from where you want to be. And I think just reading that book really helped me internalize this idea of like all decisions you make in some way surround the goal that you are trying to achieve. So like every decision you make, what you eat, when you get up, what content you're consuming, how you look at various things as they happen to you, and what your attitude is, all of them are contributing to, are you pulling yourself in the direction that you want to go, or are you going in the opposite direction? And just internalizing that, I think, was a huge way for me to live what might seem like as a mission driven life. It's more of just like, I just realized that every decision counts, and I'm trying to make more on the good side than I am the bad side, and just keep going in that direction.
Love that.
So, yeah.
And Ben, where can people first connect with you, or if they want to enroll or purchase any of your courses, where can they do those things?
So we're WODprep, or I'm also WODprep because I don't have any individual social media, but just WODprep on all the platforms. So if you would, the best place to go is WODprep.com, WODprep.com. And there's a tab there for courses that you can always go check out all of the fitness courses that we have. And then I'm WODprep on all the other social media platforms. So Instagram DMs are still something that I check for whatever reason. But my email is ben@wodprep.com. Facebook or WODprep, YouTube or WODprep. So pretty much WODprep on all the platforms.
Awesome. I will make sure to link all those in the show notes for everyone. And thank you, everyone, for tuning into the Mission Driven Made podcast. If you found value in the episode today, which I know you did, go ahead and subscribe to the show and then leave us a 5-star review. Ben, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to be on the show and get to connect with you for the first time. I appreciate it so much. And until next time, everyone, stay mission driven.
Loved it. Thank you.